Alright, I finally uploaded this build, which I've been working on since November. Um, so probably I'm going to get a bunch of bug reports coming in because I always miss 1,000 things, and usually when I for every one bug that I fix, I introduce like 5 new ones. But that's how it goes when you don't know what you're doing. So in the meantime, I'm really happy to just move on to something actually interesting, maybe. Um, so there's 1,001 things that I could decide to start working on now. Um, uh, Let me think. What do I want to work on? What if I start working on now? And if it's going to be like a new feature, then I'm going to have to start probably create a new branch for it in Git. Because once people start playing around with that new build that I just uploaded, they'll start finding bugs. So I want to not interfere with the bug fixes. I've learned that I always have this moment after I upload a new build to Patreon, deciding what to work on next. And I've learned that actually deciding what to work, that's actually quite an important decision. um, hmm. So since it's such an important decision, let's just do it really flippantly and not really think about it at all. So I think what I'm going to work on is um, the following. I don't remember if I've talked about this at all. But I think I talked about it in the year in review video. But something people have been asking about for ages is, say you have a block like this, maybe you have some warp markers like this, and you have some envelope points like this. When you click on this right hand edge and drag to the left, it would be nice if there was some kind of mode where instead of just like chopping off the end, it would actually squish all of this information down into a smaller space. So every envelope point, every one of these warp markers, and the sample information, if there is any on the current block, it would all be squished down. So if you made a transformation like this from here to here, all of these envelopes would be like squished to, it would be like automatically calculated and squished down to the correct place. So everything would be, I don't know where it'd end up, but it would end up something like that. And then if you made the opposite transformation from here back to here, it would go back to where it was. But I would like to do that to happen completely losslessly. So here's the problem: if every one of these envelope points, for example, basically every one of these elements, but let's take the envelope points as an example. If you zoom all the way in and start dragging, oh, that's an interesting bug. Oh, look at that. It's difficult to select that point when you're zoomed in. That's an interesting bug. Not even going to make a note of that because I'll wait for somebody to report that before I actually bother fixing it. So I'm not even gonna. Somebody will notice that at some point and report it. But no, here's a better example. Way of explaining what I'm talking about. So each envelope point, when you select an envelope point, this extra toolbar appears down here with the X and the Y. The Y, what the Y means is obvious. It's from here to here, right? That's interesting as well. Oh, that's not being clipped to the... I found another bug. So as soon as I start using it properly, I find all these bugs. That's quite cool, actually. That's wrong. That should be clamped to the max value, obviously. Yeah, I will make a note of that one. I don't have a... Where's the known issues? Let's log in. Why do I have to log in twice? That was weird. I had to log in twice. Okay. Envelope point toolbar Y spinner allows setting value beyond configured min max. What was the other one? Points difficult to select when zoomed in very far. Okay. Right. What the hell was I talking about? So that's the Y value. The X value is obviously the left-right position, which is very high resolution. So 14,186 add 187. So you see it's a very high resolution. It's because this is basically the resolution of the underlying blockhead canvas, which is very high resolution. But the point is that these are whole numbers that these envelope points are sitting on. And when you do a transformation where you're like squashing everything down to a smaller area or expanding it out, the final resting position of these envelope points after that calculation is performed is going to have to sit on a whole number, which would be lossy because you squash it down and it might end up at like, this point might end up at like 9001.75 or something like that, just because that's how the math works out. And so it would be rounded to 9002. 9000, yeah. It would be rounded to a whole number. So you've lost information straight away. And then when you do the exact opposite transformation of expanding it back to exactly where it was, the envelope would again, it would start from the wrong position, and then the final resting position would be, again, it would end up at some fractional value and then get rounded. So it would be a lossy transformation. Which is interesting. And same happens with warp markers as well. And yes, this is very interesting because there's no need for it to be lossy, because I can do some fucked up stuff where I can basically, the way that I implement this squashing behavior could just be that there is a floating point scaling factor for every block, and when you squash it down, you're basically just modifying that scaling factor. So every block starts at scaling factor 1, for example, and then you squash it down, and it let's say you go to exactly half the width that it started at. You're going from 1 to 0.5, and so the envelope points would all be sitting at exactly the same x value that they were at, but they would have this scaling factor applied to them, and so there's no information lost basically when you squash things down, because the envelope points are not actually moving. They're just having this. It's just the scaling factor that's changing. So that's extremely interesting for reasons that I don't know why it's interesting, other than theoretically, because you're basically concentrating the amount of canvas resolution within an area by squashing things down to a smaller area. Like within a block, so you have like this fixed resolution of the blockhead canvas. Like you can't go from 14286 to 14286.5, for example. You can only go to 14287, 288, 89, 90. So you're working within a particular resolution. But by taking a block and squashing it down, you're actually concentrating the amount of resolution within an area of the workspace, of the timeline. I don't know what the ramifications of that are. It's just interesting. And obviously, if you go in the opposite direction, you're spreading that resolution out into a wider area of the timeline. And then there would have to be I'd have to have some kind of interface for displaying exactly what the scaling factor is on a block, just so the user knows if they actually want to know that information. And there, probably in the context menu, you'll be able to say, right click and say, I don't know what it would be called, normalize scaling or something like that, which would reset the block's scaling factor back to 1.0, and it would round all of the automation information to the nearest integer, just so you don't get into, like, if you start with a very small block and then in stretch and squash mode, stretch it out to a larger area, suddenly your automation points will have not as much resolution. But it probably doesn't really matter most of the time, because there's so much resolution to begin with. But I mean, blockhead is supposed to be, it does support like dragging 4-hour long audio files, and they should work exactly the same as a half-second long drum beat or whatever. So blockhead should support, extreme situations, as well as any other situation. So anyway, I think it's all very interesting. I don't really understand what the ramifications of it are, like by having this scaling factor and implementing this stretching and squashing the way I want to implement it. But possibly as I implement things, more ideas will reveal themselves. And I already created a button for this, right here. Block squashing off, on, with shortcut Q. And all that happens when you turn it on is this message pops up. Yes. So this is going to interact with the plugin system. Yeah, I'm going to need to pass the scaling factor into the plugin, first of all. Yeah, I don't really know where to start with this. Yeah, usually I just start with the interface, which is exactly why I created this button before. Um, yes, okay. Let's have a look at the plugin API then. So that whatever I'm going to do now, the this whole stretching and squashing idea, this is not going to be something that I can just implement in the space of one video. This is going to be something which probably takes at least a week to implement properly. I don't know, maybe I'm being pessimistic there. I actually don't know how long this is going to take to figure out how to do, but this, what do I want to do? I need to pass him a scaling factor for each block. Where does that get passed in exactly? Let's see. Not here. Hello? Oh my god. Right. So I had another thing to this unit state, do I? Yeah, exactly. Just like I have for the data offset. Look at these. Why have I got tabs here? And then I do the same thing here. Why are these files taking so long to open? What the hell? Samplers are more complicated. Where's the unit state? There it is. Yeah. Look, I've got the same white space issue here. Right. So what I'm talking about is I would pass in the value like that. So it's synths, and let's try to be consistent about where these are placed. So it's the host's responsibility to initialize this with the correct value. Yeah. And then that scaling factor is going to be used everywhere, like in all of the calculations for automation and everything. Yes. Okay. Alright, so that's a start. Okay, let's think about... I'm probably going to end up refactoring a bunch of the plugin system now. For a long time, I've wanted to... So okay, let me explain what I'm talking about. So I have this... where is it? This plugin API. So the plugin repository, the Blink repository, this include directory, this is the API. It's just a bunch of header files. Then there's also this plugin Blink directory. This is a companion C++ library which is supposed to make writing plugins easier. And it's all a bunch of C++. And I don't like the way that this library is written anymore. If I was starting this from scratch today, then I would write it in a completely different way. But this is what all of the current plugins use to implement themselves. So eventually I'm just going to throw all of this away and rewrite the entire thing. Well, I'll probably keep a bunch of this stuff, but the sort of main structure of plugins would change. The interface would be exactly the same, but the way that they're implemented would change. So that's the danger of looking at, like, adding this new piece of data that I want to pass in. The danger is that I'm looking at this companion library and making changes to it. I'm going to think, oh, I want to get rid of this and start again, but I'll try to resist. So if we look at, for example, I guess what I should look at to begin with is the visual stuff, because then I can see visually whether I'm doing the right thing. How does all this work? Slided data. So envelope data. So all of these functions are gonna take in a scaling factor now, I guess. Is that the idea? Or is it just block positions? No, I think I just apply the scaling to the block position. So maybe this is really easy. So when I construct this block position bullshit, I just pass a scaling factor in here. Blink position. Okay. Let's see, this is what I don't like about the... Oh, here's the block positions, okay. So I'm passing in buffer positions plus index. What is that? Right. This is part of what I don't like about the C++ Blink library. I think this would be rethought. Okay. Blink position is what? A double. That's good. I'm glad of that. I'm trying to think if it's really as simple as it seems. Is it as simple as it seems? I don't know. And what operations does this have on it? Right. I'm going to just do something hacky here for now. And say positions times equals unit state scale. Okay, this is just temporary code because I'm just playing around trying to figure things out at the moment. Okay. Okay, where does this unit state come from in the host? I'm not sure how this all works. It would be, I guess, inside... Is it in here? Unit state. I don't know. Audio model. Unit state. That's just the ID. Is it in here? Unit. Where's the unit state? I don't know. There we go, I generate it here. Okay. Alright, that's good. So in hold on, sampler plugin instance. Here. Unit state scale. If I just say two, then what happens? Let's just see what visually happens there. So the host is always setting scale to 2 no matter what, and then nothing different is happening in the audio, but visually when I'm generating the waveform, I'm applying that scale to this vector of block positions. So I assume what would happen, what this is going to do is the waveform is either going to be stretched by double, or squashed to half the size. I can't talk. My math does not work. I should have used this time to make another coffee, but instead I just looked up my emails on my phone. It breaks everything. That's interesting. Okay, let's see. Why does it break everything? So buffer positions. Oh, this is not initialized. Oh yeah, of course. Right, yeah. Sampler unit state. Waveform renderer, here we go. Unit state scale equals 2. Thank you. Okay, that's exactly what I expected. So the waveform is half. Yeah. Okay. So now what? Okay. Right. So now when I'm moving these envelope points around, I also need to take into account the scaling factor. Okay, this is good. So this is my test, right? I'm just going to always have the scaling factor at 2.0 for now. So we're imagining that the user has already scaled the block down to wait, have they squashed it or have they stretched it out? They've squashed it, right? Or have they stretched it out? They've squashed it, yeah. So they squashed it from 1 to 2. If they were to stretch it out, it would go from 1 to 0.5 if they stretched it to double the length. But we're imagining that the user has already squashed it to half the size. So these envelope points need to be placed on the screen in a different location, essentially. So, envelope editor. And you know what I'm going to do actually? Let's go to constants. Temporary scaling factor 2. And let's go back to all the places where I did that. And just so I don't forget to initialize them, let's do the same thing here. And here. Right. Good. So I'm going to find the place where I figure out where on the screen the envelope points are placed, which is going to desynchronize them from the line temporarily and possibly some other things. So draw points, is this it? Drawing. Info. Draw points info. Point selected points. Okay. Oh, here we go. Make interact points. Yes, this is it. So we need to pass in the scale as well. Scale. Excuse me. There we go. This should be right, I think. Double. Song position is the point position plus the data offset. times the scale. Hold on. Let's do this properly, I guess. So I just cast this to a double, do I? And then times scale samples, because this wants a double. Okay. Or is it supposed to be divide by scale? Possibly I'm supposed to divide, actually. Now this is going to be... This is going to desync. As soon as I like click to create a point, it's going to be off from where it should be. Because I also need to account for the scale when I calculate where the point is being created when the mouse is clicked. Which happens where? In B left pressed. Here. There's going to be other places where I need to account for the scale as well. But plus, hold on, plus view offset minus data offset. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So scaled position is... It's not going to be... Is it multiply or divide? I don't know. We'll find out eventually. Okay, so what does this do so far? Right. So this should be divide, should it? Oh, look. Cool, okay. Oh, that's not quite right. Don't know what's happening there. What? Okay, it makes sense that there would be issues. So, okay. So this is going to be where it calculates the min-max x value, I suppose. I think the way I could do this is just search for anywhere I'm accounting for the data offset. Anywhere I'm accounting for that, I would also need to account for the scale. So let's just see where that's referenced. Offset scale, yeah. Draw hover feedback. Yeah, exactly. Like lower limit, upper limit. Mm-hmm. Is it just here? No. That's fine. It's getting the pixel. Is it? No, that's... Oh, yeah, okay. Plus view offset value. There's a double now here. Okay. So we're imagining that the user has already done that. And it feels correct, yes? So envelope points seem pretty easy enough. This is all working still. The hovering of the points is still working surprisingly. I thought I would need draw hover feedback. I don't even take into account the scale because I guess I don't need it. Draw hover feedback info. If I don't need the scale, then why do I need the data offset? I'm not sure. Ah, yeah. The value that's being displayed is incorrect. That's why, okay. So I do need the scale in here. Float scale. Scaled pos. Scale. Again, it's either multiply or divide. Oh, it could be divide here, right? Mm-hmm. Right. And then there's going to be another handler here for when the scale changes. The value's still wrong. So it should be multiply, I suppose. There we go. Alright, this is working well, actually. So the warp markers are going to be completely broken, right? I'm trying to add a warp marker here and it's not working. Apparently I am adding warp markers, but it's just not. Interesting. Yeah, as soon as I start adding warp markers, everything just breaks. Which makes sense that everything would break. Alright, this is a good start. Okay, I'm gonna have a break and have lunch. I'll see if anyone's reported any bugs yet.